Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halim wa salam bikum. Salamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi barakatuh leo ikwani fati fi din. Salamu ala mani taba huda leo ikwani fati fi Afrika, Europa, America, Caribbean, Wakuli Macan. To my full community, Anjarama, a Jambe. Alhamdulillah Jamwali. Hal Salim Bikum. My dear brothers and sisters, today I will talk about the Fulani Renaissance number 2, part 2 here. And I'll go deeper into how our ancestral fathers, the Modibo, how they handled the Renaissance and the learning of the Fulbe community. And we have lost this. And I'm trying to restore it, and I'm trying to give a history so that way people will understand that the Fulani weren't bandits from the beginning. And there's only a small percentage of us are involved in this type of activity. Here, I'm showing you a depiction here of the metaphysics, which we mastered. And the metaphysics, in order for a Muslim, really, to be honest with you, to be really in tune to what the Creator wants, is he would have to incorporate the metaphysics into his Islam. And what I mean by that is, yes, we read the Quran, we try to understand the Quran, and we go by the commands. But there's also something that I will cover here in other segments, but I'll cover some of it today. Is the importance that if you start tying in many of the surahs of the Quran, especially near the end, 87 to 93, it ties you from the earthly plane to the cosmos. So here I'm giving you like a distinction on how we handled the metaphysics in our time when we were actually the caretakers of education and Islamic education, and we were the most prominent scholars and everything else. And so this is a important factor for us that we have lost this aspect. And I'm going to try to do my best to cover a lot of this so that we'll have an understanding. Fulani, how can I say, the essence of the Fulani has been education, okay, and worship of the Creator. This has been the bottom line from the time we left Tahmeri, Kemet, ancient Egypt, till we got into the Sahara Desert. And then when we start going down south into West Africa, into Sahel and the Savannah region in particular. So we always had this love and devotion to the Creator. If it was from the religion called Ka, all the way to time it was Islam. And when Islam came, we really took off again because it was an extension of the religion of Ka, and meaning in a sense of saying that there was a prophet who received a message from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who wrote a document called Papyrus of Ani, in which he was talking about Tawheed. And he gave the prophet at that time, you're talking about what, maybe 9,000 years ago, he got the message from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and he wrote this document. And this is the prototype Tawheed, and so forth and so on. So we were dominant in as far as even the pharaohs. Sheikh Diab, who rahimahullah, he talked about that most of the pharaohs from the old kingdom to the middle kingdom and to the new kingdom were mostly Fulani people. And this is what he surmised from his research, what he had done, and so forth and so on. He considered them to be more like the Fulani type, as he called them. And so forth and so on. And that's indicative because of the names of the Fulani. Today, we still have the Ka and Ba in them, see? So anyway, I'm going to talk about this essence of the Renaissance, because the Renaissance is needed at this time. We have brilliant scholars who can give us the Quran. We have many who can give us many aspects. What has happened is we're missing the historical aspect of the Fulani. When somebody from the Hausa or somebody from the Tiv or somebody from the Chamba somebody from some ethnic group or from the Kanuri, from whomever, I'm talking about Nigeria in particular in this situation, they all of a sudden start talking about the Fulani people being no good, bandits and criminals. Okay, we say, for instance, our most of our Fulani people, even many of our scholars, can't give you a history to basically deride what has been said about us. And this is what I'm trying to close that gap to bring all these historical facts and how the scholarship and so forth began and whatnot. So I'll start with this part of and I'm trying something new with Zoom because it's not working very well with StreamYard. It was compromised greatly. And so, I had to try to find something that I can do okay, boy, now this is very interesting. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Brothers and sisters, in order for us to get back into the Renaissance, where do we get all our knowledge from? Was it when we got to the Sahel? No. The Sahel, we would start to reach in the Sahel in Takrur around in the 600s or maybe earlier than that. But we got all our education out from Tahmeri across, and when we were in the Sahara Desert, this is where we formulate most of our proverbs and so forth and so on, talking about the devotion to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and also about the earthly plane and that is the cosmos, which we'll get into a little bit more. The Sahara is a metaphysical crucible. And why we talk about this, because when you talk about the Sahara Desert, you tie in. The thesis statement is the Sahara functions as a cosmos of the earth, an orchestrated, sentient, and divine governed environment where physical reality, celestial order, and ancestral knowledge converge. This is part of the Renaissance. We have to get back as the people Fulbe to get this nexus between what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants us to do about the earth, and he also wants us to understand what his power is in the heavens above us. And this is something we have lost. And this deep disconnection has caused a lot of problems for us. And so I'm trying to give you something with the medieval, how when he was under the baobab tree talking to young students of villages, they will all come to one village and they would sit under the tree, under the baobab tree, and learn from the medieval, who was a master scholar, not only Islam, but he also understood metaphysics. This is an important thing that you have to understand. The metaphysics of the thin place is a porous veil, conceptual desert as a space where boundaries between terrestrial, celestial, and ancestral realms are permeated. So this is why why are we hitting the desert? Because the desert is where we received all this information. If you navigate the Sahara, you can navigate the cosmos. This is what our ancestral fathers believed this aspect. And in order for us to get a good understanding about who we are and about what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, you got to go to the desert. You must hit the desert, brothers and sisters. You must hit the desert to get to understand that. Because the methodological is embracing Sahayan and Sufi scholarship. Okay, this is important because we had a great many of our scholars who were quote unquote Sufi, which I don't like to use that term, but I have to use it in order for context for people to understand where the Sufi, the Tasawwuf is deep into meditation and also to metaphysics, where they analyze something deeply and they tie it in from the earthly to the cosmos. And that's the difference between many of them and the scholars. We're not talking about the Sufi who are involved in innovations we call bid'ah. We're not talking about that. And here, we talk about the Sahara Desert, the divine orchestration, the theological understanding of the environment anomalies. In the Sahel, we have many things which I'll cover as we start going through these classes about the Sahara Desert, why it's important, and there's many manifestations of divine will that's there in the desert. There's a lot of things that our ancestors saw, and they wrote and they gave proverbs about it. Again, examining the Fulani and the Tuareg practice of navigating the desert via celestial mechanics and stellar alignment. When you're in the Sahara, you have no other choice. You have your earthly plane and you have the celestial plane. When you look up and you're trying to navigate, you have to use the cosmos in order to navigate. We were experts in that, along with our Tuareg brothers. We always stayed and maintained close contact with one another in the desert, in the Sahara. We always had this contact. Again, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. You take the Sahara Desert, you take a compass, the compass won't work well. It doesn't work very well at all. But you get a Bedouin of the desert who knows the desert very well. He can look across the plain, and there's a coordinates according to the plane, level of plane. What I mean by that is you look at the earth, and as you look straight ahead, they can give you a coordinates to get to a direction that you want. This is one of the miracles, I guess, Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave those who dwell in the desert. And one of our famous scholars talked about the Modibo and his library. The Modibo, when he dies, the library actually burns. The key is taking the books out of the library before the Modibo dies and then preserve those things. What we have today is we have many Modibo who have died. Their knowledge went with them. Nobody knows about them because of the colonial period, and now because of the secular period that we have going on after colonial period, which they have destroyed the education system. And now we have many Modibo who are 70, 80, 90 years old. They died without giving any knowledge. And that's really a shame. And this is, again, the environmental intelligence as a defensive strategy. This here, brothers and sisters, is where the Mujahideen today are using this particular here as a vehicle to kill the mercenaries and to fight security forces in the Sahel today. They use this because Sahara is a portal to the heavens. There's a lot of anomalies there in the desert. They use that. I give example. I'm talking about the Russian soldiers who have left to go back home. Talked about some of this stuff. They were saying they had technical advantage. They had the satellites. They have heat-seeking. I forgot what they call those devices where they can detect heat. But what happens in the Sahara Desert, you have changing physics inside the desert, and the Bedouin knows that. So he would tell the Mujahideen, says, "Look, I need you to go in this area over here, and you wait there until I tell you when you can leave." And what has happened is, as the Russian soldiers and the security forces go through parts of the Sahara, their instruments say there's nobody there, when in fact there's 2,000, 3,000, or maybe more, 20,000 soldiers, Mujahideen, are sitting right over a sand dune. They don't see them, even though the satellite said there's nobody out there. This is what we're talking about here: environmental intelligence as defensive strategy. The failure of the technical warfare. Now we have the Russians admitted to being arrogant. They came in, they figured these are black people, stupid, they're not trained under any Western military academies, so they have to be black. I mean, they're black and they're stupid. We should be able to wipe them up. Well, at the last 2 years, estimates give around 1,000 Russian mercenaries have been killed. Over maybe 1,000 or over. This is what is estimated, because they came in arrogantly, and because the Sahara knows it, the people that love it. The Sahara knows the sons and daughters of their land. When foreigners come into this land, there's indicators that the Sahara, I'm telling you, this is the truth, brothers and sisters. This is the truth. The Sahara begins to give to the Bedouin and to the Mujahideen who live in the desert, the Tuareg and the Fulani, and begin to give them evidence. They said, look, you got foreigners in this region over here. One of them is by the lizards. You may think it's funny, but it's not funny when you fight in a war. They know where certain snakes, certain lizards, certain types of animals and insects are in certain regions, okay? They may be everywhere, but they know in certain regions these things. Suddenly they start seeing a whole stream of these lizards and these others because they got away from these foreigners who are in this region. The Bedouin sees that. He says, wait a minute, these guys belong to this plain over here. This is where they're at. They go there and they ambush them. This is what they're using today in the desert. And the conclusion that the Sahara is a sanctuary, reassuring the sanctity of the law for those who operate harmony with its laws. The future of the Sahara, predicting the continued failure to external interventions. The Russians, the Americans, the British, the French, everybody's come in this region trying to conquer, and they're starting to find out they have a hard time doing this, predicting the continued failure of external interventions that refuse to acknowledge the metaphysical and living reality of the region. They come in, they see the Sahara Desert as rock, sand, desolate, no water, more rock, and they damn it to hell. That's how they look at it. But the Bedouin, he knows where these areas are at. He knows where the water is. He knows it's a living entity to him. He doesn't try to dominate it. He doesn't try to control it. He tries to live within it, and the Sahara takes care of him. That's how our ancestors looked at that. The desert as an active participant in the human history governed by an unseen architect. Who's governing that? We know in Islamic law, in Islamic, under the Islamic thinking, we have that the angels, we know Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels to govern the universe and so forth. The angels govern this, who will be the unseen architect. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate creator, and he's the sultan of the heavens and the earth. The angels manage it for him. So this is a fact, brothers and sisters, that again, this is a educational thing about the Renaissance, the Fulani Renaissance. The Modibo was understanding this. I'm giving you what they did from the 1300s to the 1800s, how they thought. See, this is how they looked at things and whatnot. And I'm going to show you something else here. When you see the situation like this, the great Fulani figures and so forth, these were the great astrophysicists who mastered the Sahara Desert and also the heavens above. These are some of them, brothers and sisters, who managed, and they were great men. These are Fulani figures, and you see some of the dates here. I think the other part got cut off down here, but anyway, they were very instrumental in helping the Modibo and to train the scholars for centuries to come. All this was broken up during the colonial period, and then when the secular Muslims got involved, and then they began to destroy it even more. They introduced secular education, and they damned our education, and this is why we're in a sorry state today. But this is some of the people here that we that were our forefathers, who were brilliant, scholars, a Modibo, and so forth and so on. And I'm going to we got the metaphysics now. The frame for the Sahara as the cosmos of the earth through the lens of African metaphysics is recognized that the desert is not a vacuum of dead space. In its worldview, the Sahara functions as an earthly macrocosm of the celestial order for several foundational reasons. As you've seen here, I give you the Porous Veil again, talking about the issues about how there's something that's there in the Sahara Desert, brothers and sisters. I'm going to tell you now, even scientists, they're secular, have tried to figure out things about the Sahara Desert. You have things that are similar to what's going on the moon. You have the similar types of cosms that are on in the Sahara Desert. Remember, I told you when I first went to the Sahara Desert in 2012, when I stepped into it, it felt like I stepped on the moon. Even though I never been to the moon, but I felt like I stepped into I left the earth, because you feel the gravity, you feel it, and there's hidden forces and so forth. The Sahara acts as a thin place where these mechanics manifest physically. your observation of the vanishing oasis. Now we have talked. That's the issue. Also talking about the mysteriousness of the Sahara Desert. We have Fulani and we have also Tuareg will tell you that Subhanahu wa Taala, for some reason, how his wisdom, he'll put a oasis that will appear suddenly. They've been traveling these routes for thousands of years. Suddenly there's an oasis that's there with water and dates. They go to their mission, they stock up, they go to their mission, they're gone 5 months, 6 months. They go through the same region looking for this same oasis, is gone. These things are reported. The celestial lights, these lights are beaming from the heavens. The scientists have tried to figure it out. Our ancestral fathers believed that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala was talking to the Sahara Desert. These are ancestral lights that come down and hit the Sahara Desert. Very, very interesting. Very, very. And then you have the metaphysics again about the cosmos represents the primal state, the empty expanse of creation emerges. The Sahara strips of the excess of forest, presents a earth in its most cosmic form, raw, elementary, governed by the stark laws of nature. This is all again part of education Fulani Renaissance. When your Fulani and Tuareg guides speak of navigating the Sahara as synonyms with the navigating the cosmos, they are referring to the fundamental metaphysical truth, as above as below. We have a proverb, the Fulani have a proverb, as you guide in the celestial planes up there in the cosmos, so do as you navigate on the Sahara Desert. Again, linking you to the desert, to the cosmos to the desert. The desert is a map of the heavens cast on the sands. Our ancestors believe that when you understand the Sahara Desert, you begin to understand what's in the heavens. And because there's these anomalies, to possess the knowledge to read this map, to know when the anomalies manifest, lights, oasis, shifting, you'll feel like the earth is moving. You'll feel like a atmospheric pressure that hit you, and so forth and so on. These things like this, when you get to govern and understand that, then you'll be able to navigate the Sahara. And again, the divine order by viewing the desert not as a orchestration under divine permission. Your position that the Sahara as a living organ of the earth reflects the complexity of a wider universe, which is true. It is not unregulated space. It's a space governed by an unseen architect, as we talked about. In African metaphysical traditions, where the sacred and profane are not separated, the Sahara serves as the earth's interface with the infinite. Again, brothers and sisters, there's no other place on this earth that's like the Sahara Desert. You have deserts in California, you got desert in Texas, you got desert in New Mexico, you have deserts in Asia, you have them all over the place, but they're not the Sahara Desert. It's not the same, brothers and sisters. It's not the same. It's not the same. So you start to get that understanding how this education I'm giving you now, how important it is for you as a Fulani, as a Pulo. You must get this education and start to go back to where our ancestors taught and learn what our ancestors, how they managed their education and how they passed this education down, because it's important. And I'm gonna go back to another photos here because I wanted to give something. Again, when you manage the Sahel and you manage the southern part of the Sahara Desert, you hit into the Savannah and the Sahel region. You had, again, Tuareg and Fulani, who mainly stayed together a lot. You can see here the Tuareg in the blue, the Fulani in the white. They stayed together because they've been there together for centuries upon centuries. But one of the fascinating things, again, about the Renaissance, the Fulani Renaissance, is as masters of the hidden source, meaning the lions knew who they were. The lions know who the medieval were. They protected them. When the medieval came to an area and they were going to stay there 2, 3, 4 days, 10 days, or a month to meditate and to be close to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Sufis, especially Sufi, to solve, they would go into a region The lions will come, brothers and sisters. This is a fact that's been recorded by the British. Also, the British sent their people out. They even recorded things like this as well. As you heard my classes talking about this, it's very, very, very interesting that you have this phenomenon that our brothers reach this height of dimensions where the earthly plane, they could come into a region and the most one of the most deadliest predators on this earth lives in harmony with them. This is a fascinating uh, 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 situation that we have. Again, I'm trying to show how the Fulani are not just bandits. We have something that many people don't quite understand. Now, we're going to get into something, brothers and sisters, and I'll be closing it pretty soon. One of the educations that are the medieval, when he gave to the young men of the villages in that region. As you hear me say, many Fulani children, many even Tuareg will come when the medieval will give his class. The medieval probably will give the class when it's not as hot, so maybe around Maghrib and near Isha, the children will come and sit under a baobab tree and the medieval would teach. And this is what I'm doing here now by giving you this. This here is written in Fulfulde language. But you can see here, as you see, I'm translating, you can get the picture of what is happening here. Let me give you part of education here. The earth, when you measure by locations, we have longitude and latitude. Remember, we all learned that in school. The heavens is not the same. When you leave the earthly plane, brothers and sisters, when you leave that, right? We call this declinations. The declinations, you have northern declination and the southern declination. This is how you measure distances in the outer space. On the earth is latitude and longitude. This is what we're talking about. Here to your left is the earthly plane, and over here to your right is the cosmos. And then this is those brothers who can speak the Fulfulde, some of the dialects. You can see here, we talking about Kara Sama, uh, even in Arabic, Samawat. In Arabic, Dunya, of course, is also a word, but in Messina dialect as well, in Pular, we also use a lot of Arabic. The Kara Dunya and whatnot means the earthly mirror, and then the celestial mirror is Kara Sama. So you again, the measurements are by declinations. As you see here near the bottom here, it says that's Sunni Jaibe. So this you see here talking about the declinations. When you leave the earth, you start to measure the distances and locations by declinations. And I'm just giving you some parts of education that the Modibo, he was a master of this, brothers and sisters. He understood this very, 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 very well. And let me get back to my where we at? Yeah, okay. Okay, let me see where we got. I was trying to get no, this is not what I wanted here. Excuse me, brothers and sisters, because I'm still trying to navigate um, the, okay, where we had to, where we have that, yeah, here we go. Um, I'm going to cover one more and then I'll, okay, I'll cover the urgency. Brothers and sisters, we in an urgent situation now for the Fulani because we've been bombarded. We have Mujahideen fighting in Mali and in Burkina Faso, and in some parts of Niger, and the Mujahideen known as Messina. They are fighting in northern Nigeria as well. We have bandits and we have kidnapping and brigand criminal gangs and all of this. We have all this going on now. We have Christians and others who are blaming the Fulani for the insecurity in Nigeria in particular, but across the Sahel and whatnot. A lot of this is happening. And the educational part for us, we're starting to lack a lot. We don't have this education anymore. It's gone and whatnot. Our bandits and many of our kidnappers can't even read and write. This is one of the sad epitaphs. But the urgency, the importance of the Sahara Desert is a guide that we use to help us to get that education, to understand, the what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants from us. And I'm giving you this so that way we can start to do our research. Its importance of the Sahara is very important. The protection of the sacred crucible. The Sahara is described as an Islamic scholarship tradition, not merely as sand, but a Sahara, a theater of trial and crucial for revelations. This is very important. Custodianship. By understanding the desert's internal logic, the Fulbe and Muslim scholars act as the protectors of the space. Preventing desecration. When local scholars class falls into articulate the metaphysical depth of the desert, they allow the tobacco, which we know today as the white man, the outsider, to frame it as a wasteland and no man's land. This framing is the psychological foundation of destruction and extraction that follows. Because, brothers and sisters, again, because our education is stopped. We don't have the medieval anymore. So when the Tubac comes and tries to tell you that the Sahara Desert is nothing, and of course, you know what they done. When the colonial period came down, especially in the late 1800s, to late 1800s and the 1900s, they made a point to confiscate documents of many scholars, and they killed many scholars as well. And one of the things is they hit the Sahara Desert, because the Sahara Desert they knew is where the education was. Timbuktu is not in a big city; it's in the desert. See, so this is what the educational system was very important for us to understand. Then you have the practical application of Ilm Sahara, the sciences of the desert. My talks right here talking about demonstrating the desert operates as a sophisticated multi-dimensional frequency. Understanding this is essential because why? Tactical survival. We talk the Mujahideen are using that. The Bedouin who live there, the Tuareg and the Fulani who live in the desert, they know the anomalies of the desert, as you heard me talk about. For the Mujahideen regulars and the Bedouin guides, this knowledge is driven for life and death. The Russian mercenaries have been killed off. They estimated around 1,000 or more have died in the last year or so, or 2 years. That's a heavy body count. Soldiers returned back after being wounded in the Sahel, talking about this issue of the Sahara Desert. And they talk about how these people come and they go, they disappear, we never see them. They're up on us before we even know they're there. All of this stuff here is being reported. Meaning sovereignty. The current victory of the resistance in these regions like Kidal. Kidal is one of the factors. I will say this as I get ready to close here, brothers and sisters. Kidal is part, you heard my class the other day, it's in the north central part of Mali. The Russians had outposts, but all of the modern equipment, firepower of the Eastern power. That outpost is overran. The Russians, many saved their lives when Algeria was contacted and they negotiated a release. They allowed the Russians to leave, but they had to leave back, as you're my class, all of their equipment. They got helicopters, they got all kind of devices and so forth and so on. But the key of the Kidal was we have rumors that tell us, because we don't talk to Mujahideen, but we have people who are talking, because the reciprocity within the Fulani, they begin to spread what has happened in the area. We've always been good at that. So even something maybe 1,000 kilometers away, but one Fulani will get it, he will tell it to another, and it'll pass it on. One of the things they were saying is that they used insects like lizards and others to detect movement of troops. This is, I'm telling you the truth, brothers and sisters. This is something. They used the insects. When the insects were rattled, they know the soldiers were out there. They knew this. They knew the mercenaries are out there. This is a very interesting situation. So now we get into the preserving the intellectual lineage. The Modibo, Sidi Tiji possess a library of wisdom. This is important that we have to get back to. We have some brilliant scholars, especially in northern Nigeria. My cousin there, Sheikh Gumi, Sheikh Sokoto, Sheikh Bala. There's a whole Sambo. There's many great Fulani scholars we have, and some of them are in the Modibo category. And I wish they would start to kind of maybe go towards that realm, start to be more of the medieval than just a regular Islamic scholar. And again, this is, you know, something here, the ancestral continuity by acknowledging the ancestral knowledge. I wish my wife was here. She just came back from Hajj for me and so forth. And uh, she was talking to me again about the Sahara Desert. And she remembered this one fact. And we have pictures of it, but we can't find them. We know they were removed out of my old camera and my old computer many, many years ago when I was in the Sahara Desert. There was a light that came around. I didn't know the light. I didn't know. I mean, I know when I start to pray, all of a sudden the area, because it was pitch black, because we talking about Salat the Maghrib, it was pitch black in the desert, and it's still in the wintertime. It was pitch black. You can't even see your hand. I followed the stars to a region of the Sahara Desert, and my wife was scared. You heard me talk about she was scared to death. I followed this one star. We got to an area. I said, let's make Maghrib. It's pitch black. When we got to this area, all of a sudden it lit up. My wife, she recorded it. When I stood in there acting as the imam to give the Akama and so forth, I saw the area light up, but I didn't really pay too much attention because, you're getting ready to start prayer. I didn't start to look around, but I saw the area lit up. My wife was standing back about 10 meters from me. She saw it, so she began to record it. And when it recorded, it shows me on light. It was the weirdest feeling. And she talked to me again this morning about it. She said, I still think about that. And I took the pictures showing you in this light. But when we finished prayer, the light stopped. I'm telling you the truth, brothers and sisters. If my wife was here, she could tell you the same thing. Because after all these years, she still talks about that. She just came back from Hajj. So and we talked about that when she was there too. And how she talked about the time we were in the Sahara Desert. She said she tried to figure it out. We had Sufi masters, intelligence, intellectuals say that what happened with me is like I returned back to the home of my ancestors. That's how they articulated that, because it was strange. When I gave out the Akama, suddenly I saw the area light up, but I didn't know what to make of it. My wife was 10 meters, 15 meters back to the side over here. She saw it. She couldn't believe it, so she recorded it. And we're trying to find it today so you guys can see it and look at the pictures. But I think they removed them because I knew they removed them out of my computer years ago. And then the alignment of divine order, as you see here, you can go over some of this and whatnot. And I'm about ready to close here. And I wanted to give you this class, brothers and sisters, because it's important that you have this knowledge of the cosmos and the interconnection of the cosmos. What is the cosmos? Let me give you this part here. What is the cosmos? What you have to understand what the cosmos is, the Fulani concept of it. And here we explain it. It shows you here the realm of the divine and astros, linking again the earth with the cosmos. This is what makes us different than most. That's why Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us so much knowledge. Even in Tom Mary, when we came across the Sahara Desert, he gave us a lot of knowledge. Most of the scholars, scientists, astrophysicists, geologists, all of this mostly dominated by Fulani and Mandinka and Mende as well. We have that. We no doubt about that. But it's dominant is ours. The cosmos, what is the concept of it? And here it is. I'll give you this in this depiction here, showing you what the cosmos actually is and what it represents. And you see the nexus, the sun, the moon. Again, you say, well, I don't understand why this connection that you keep talking about between the earth. And let me give you something. Let me get that. Let me get the document. here on, boy, I don't know where my iPad, there we go. Uh, I'm trying to, I'm looking for the tie-in. Okay, I don't see it there. The I'm looking for the man. That's very interesting. I don't see the I don't see the tie-in with the hmm, that's that's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. I don't see. I have the Quran that was tied into. Uh, I don't know what happened to it. I'm trying to figure what I changed another to get past this because with SteamYard, the enemy was going in and removing documents. When I get ready to do a show, they let me have the documents, and the minute the show start, they begin to remove it and whatnot. I don't know. I'm trying to figure because I wanted to tie in. Then I can I can stop the program because I wanted to the photos here. Boy, I'm not sure, brothers sisters. I think no, excuse me. No, I think I'll see if this is it here. No, boy, I don't know. Looks like it's been removed. I got the feeling it's gone. Um, Let me see if this is it. Okay, this is I had it in another form, but you just to show you those Muslims who are skeptical about what I'm talking about. There is a divine conversation or a medium or a telepathic media that happened between the Nabi, alayhi salatu wasalam, and Subhanahu wa ta'ala. The surahs from 87 to 93 are special. These are oaths that Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the Nabi, tying in the earth with the cosmos. This is what brings Islam closer to Subhanahu wa ta'ala, why this is the last religion that was given by Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, I'm not going to allow it to be destroyed all the way to Yom Kippur. And these verses, these surahs here give you the connection between the universe and the earth. This is why when you read 87 to 93, it becomes more difficult. And even the scholars who give tafsir about this talks about the difficulty of these surahs and how it's read. Even the grammar is different. This because this is more of a conversation between Allah and the Nabi. He began to swear oaths on on what he saw, and this is what he created, and he began to give these things to the Nabi alayhi salam. Like 88 here, talking about the overwhelming event, reflection of destiny of accountability, the cosmic connection, the cycles of night and day. We have night and day, right? Many of us we don't think about it. It's daylight, we wake up. It's nighttime, we go to sleep. But Subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by this. The cosmic connection, like here, recognize the divine in all creations. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala, those in the heavens and those on the earth. The number 88, the reflection, the mechanics of the heavens, earth, and the mountains. Again, goes to show you the connection. The Fulani were masters of this. We understood this, and we lost it. The Fajr, dawn, the seeking of the serene soul, and then the cycles of night and day. Subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by this. Number 90, al-Bilad, where the uplifting the less fortunate, the sanctuary of city as a cosmic trust. Again, Shimps, one of my favorite surahs, the purifying the soul and access of cess, the sun, the moon, and the light that revealed the truth. Truth meaning Subhanahu wa ta'ala is behind it. He is behind that. Again, we tie in the earth with the cosmos. 92 here, striving for righteousness and generosity, the night as a veil and the day as a manifestation. Again, brothers and sisters, this all of this education that our ancestors taught, I'm giving some to you today, and I'll give you more as we go. The Adoha, again, morning brightness, trust in divine support during difficulty. The morning light as a evidence of patience. Brothers and sisters, I'm hoping that you start to understand what your elder here is talking to you about, so that way you can get a better understanding of this factor and whatnot. And I'm going to close because I got to give regular Margaret prayer here pretty soon, and so forth. And I hope I'm going to get this tape out so that the way people can review it, and we'll go from there. But this is part two here, and I'll have other series again about this education that is very, very important, that we should use and whatnot, and get back to for the Fulani Renaissance, which is very important. So I will leave you with that, my brothers and sisters. Salam alaikum, rahmatullah, anjarama.